to go Inis Oirr on Ilan Slú go trí Aran Árann agus tá an áthas orm Portugalach ghlacha I Burren Bloom Liana agus stoi an rud a hastin swam taspont leis an cur láthir seo na tu go daine nach bhfuil an ná bhain éon chlin an seo ar na héan thusaí hagans agus chlán a hagans agus tá ggéire sort rangy on that as Kitvatarler in the head on floor. So it would be lovely to do the presentation in Irish, but I think more of the audience are English speakers. So I have some Irish snippets within the presentation itself. But just as I was saying there in Irish, I'm very honoured and privileged to take part in the Burren Bloom event of 2020, and what I was explaining there is I'd like to bring people on kind of a journey of what's happening on the islands at the moment in terms of biodiversity and farming and what difficulties farmers have had in the past, and I guess where all of this came from originally. So I'm going to go back in time and I'll go into how the landscape was created, and it's all down to farmers that I'm working closely with ourselves in the project team on previously on AranLIFE project and now on the Caomhnú Árann project. But I will go further into what works we do. But I guess to just start off with, to explain where exactly one moment, it's not. My screen is not moving forward.
Do you want to try maybe stop sharing and start again?
Okay.
That might work. Yeah.
Just one quick question. Do you think it's better if I share my actual screen or directly from?
Yeah, see, whatever works for you. I think
directly from the PowerPoint?
Directly from PowerPoint seems a better option usually, but
okay.
Whatever is working for you today. It's one of those days.
You try it. I'll try it again. Yes.
Okay, yeah. Cool.
Perfect. Sorry about that. Technology, with all its greatness,
happens to all of us.
Can have its problems as well. But just for anyone who doesn't know where we are, and I suppose it's to try and show the connection we have with the Burren and with County Clare. I suppose when you look at our address, we are I'm living on Inis Oirr, the Aran Islands, and it's County Galway. And I suppose County Clare and County Galway had a massive battle back in, I think it was the 14th century, and they fought over the Aran Islands. They obviously saw something special, as there are many special reasons to love the Aran Islands. But back then it was to do with the way into Galway Bay. But Galway won out, and that's why we're County Galway. But in terms of landscape, in terms of what you see here, it's quite similar to the Burren. We've a very close connection with the Burren, and you get a lot of the same similar flora and fauna on the islands as you do in the Burren. But that's just to give you an idea of where we are located, and just to give you an overview there. The pictures give you an idea of the the structure on the farm of the farming systems on the three islands. You've Inis Oirr there just up to the top left-hand corner, you've Inis Man in the middle, and Inis Oirr on the bottom right-hand corner here, which is where I'm based. We're closest to County Clare. The same they say in terms of personalities and whatnot. They say people from Inis Oirr have a closer connection with people from Clare, and people from Inis Oirr have a closer connection to people from Galway, and they're quite similar in personalities. But I guess then, just to give you an idea of my own background, I was born and reared on Inis Oirr. My mom is originally from Dublin, and my dad is from the island. He's a farmer on the island, and he was one of our participant farmers on the AranLIFE project, and also on the Caomhnú Árann project. So it's lovely to be to work with the AranLIFE project from a work point of view, but also from a personal and family point of view as well, because you get an insight from both sides from the farmer side and from the project side. So I've learned a lot over the years from both. But just, I guess, the importance of my background is, say, I lived here till I was 15, and then I went away to school in Dublin, and I went to college in Dublin, did a business degree, and I guess all my background has been all along kind of business and administration and finance work. And that's what I'm currently doing on the current project, is a financial administrator. But I guess, and people probably wonder, how do you end up in a project like AranLIFE or Caomhnú Árann? I suppose growing up, I was so close to nature, and this picture here that I've just popped up is, this is what I would call was my playground as a child. And even just last week, myself and my sister went up because I wanted to get some pictures I was originally going to do some videos, but there was difficulty incorporating a video within Zoom, or within a presentation within Zoom, so because you lose the quality of it. So I'm just going to give you pictures, but we went up to actually just take some videos and take some pictures, and you'd be mesmerised by what's up there, and it brought back lovely memories of growing up in the island and the importance, I guess, of having such a close connection with nature and our surroundings out here on the islands. Then I suppose moving on to the current environment on the islands, there's major, similar to the rest of the country since the pandemic came into place. There have been travel restrictions, and our travel restrictions came into place, we say, about a week before the rest of the country. I suppose people feared the virus coming in, and I guess we had an advantage because we're on an island. We had a way of keeping it out. So the way of keeping it out was to keep people out, unfortunately. And yes, we are missing our family and friends and tourists that come every year. But, you know, I think it's important that we do this for the next few weeks. And there is travel restrictions in place until the 10th of August, which means also from the point of view of our own project, both our project team, I may as well just run into our project team, myself on the right hand side there of your screen, Patrick Mcgovern. A lot of you would have met Patrick and Amanda before, but just for those of you who haven't, just to give you a background, Patrick Mcgovern is the project manager, and he is originally from Fermanagh. He has a farming and agriculture and biodiversity background. And Amanda Brown, then in the middle, is currently living in Canberra. She originally hails from Dublin, and she's our scientific and technical officer on the project. And I've learned a lot from both of them since the start of the project, or both projects actually. But it's great to be working with both of them on the previously AranLIFE, you'll see there, from 2014 to 2018, and now our current project, Caomhnú Árann, that has led on from AranLIFE. But basically, they cannot, as I was saying about the travel restrictions, they cannot come to the island at the moment. So as a result, there are specific works on the ground, particularly field work, monitoring work, farm inspections. All of this it just couldn't happen. It can't happen. So we're trying to get ways around dealing with these restrictions and how. But we're coming around to it, and as a result, we've ended up having actually an even closer relationship with the farmers, whereas we are getting the farmers to do some of the work that we would have done. So it's great to have a higher involvement from the farmers as well, which is what you want from these kind of projects. It's why they work. It's the huge farmer involvement and participation in them. So I guess to move on, to give you an idea of where we're going, where I'm going with this, to probably say a long-winded way about it, but I guess to give you an understanding of where the projects came from and where they developed from, I have to start with the farming system. So you go back to the landscape and where the landscape originally came. This is where the island came, what they originally looked like. So you were talking about they would have been covered in rock and a lot of limestone pavement. And I guess as people, islanders, they're very resilient, they're very resourceful. And you'll still see that to this day. You see it even now at the moment with the current situation with the pandemic and restrictions and the lockdown. Islanders are very resourceful, and they tend to look around and see what's around them and use what's there. So what they did back centuries ago, when they decided to start farming the land, was they used what was there. So you're surrounded by the sea, you have seaweed, you have sand. They basically brought in the sea and the sand, used the rocks that were there, and divided up the land and made fields. Literally, it's all handmade fields. A lot of work went into it, and I guess that's why a lot of people still have a very close connection to the land, because they look back and they say generations and generations behind us put so much work and effort into this, and you want to maintain it and conserve it. But what happens, this is kind of an example of what the landscape looks like since then. So when the land is created, and it's like, it always reminds me of a patchwork quilt or a jigsaw, and all the little fields fit into each other. But as well as this, so I'll just give you another screen from another kind of direction. This is looking over, you see the Cliffs of Moher there in the background. But as you can see, and as I'll discuss later on, some of the challenges and all that had faced farmers and do face farmers on the islands. You see these tiny little fields and tiny little farm holdings, which is beautiful, and has created the most amazing landscape, and has also created the most amazing habitats, and these extremely species-rich grasslands and habitats that are, a lot of them are special areas of conservation, which is something I'll talk about later on. But say the tree islands, the Aran Islands, 75% of the tree islands are designated special areas of conservation. And the reason being is because there are so many of these habitats cover the islands. So you'll see just there, and just giving an example of the high priority habitats that we work with and that the farmers are farming on the island. You get up in your top left hand corner there, you have orchid rich species, calcareous grasslands. You have limestone pavement. You get a mosaic then of both of these. You can have a mixture of both. And then down in the bottom right hand corner there, there's the Mcgovern, which is mainly to be found on Inishmaan and Inishmore. But again, it's a very unique habitat, and it's a sand dune formation that can only be found on the northwest coast of Ireland and Scotland in the world. And again, it brings its own very special biodiversity, and it's one of the priority habitats that we've worked with on the AranLIFE project, and now continuing to work with on the Caomhnú Árann project. So it's how did this come about? How did these habitats become so species rich? Well, it comes back to, I'm going back to the farmers, and it's gone back to the farming system. Now, again, the farming system is quite similar to what you find in the Burren, and we have it's a winterage system. which again, just some of you will be aware of it coming from the Burren, but a lot of people haven't heard of the system before. And basically, the cattle and the animals, they're outwintered and they're not housed at all, which is very different to the farming system in other places in Ireland. They're not brought in the winter, they're not put in sheds, they're not fed silage, they're left out. And I suppose even the stone walls here helps to give them shelter, and stuff. People say, oh, that's awful mean, and it's not fair to have them out when the calves are born. But again, I saw them there. My dad's calves were born in February, and it was in the middle of Storm Dennis. He had twins, or she had twins. My dad's cow had the twins, and we called them Dennis and Dinny, because one was born on Sunday morning in the middle of the hurricane, and the other one was born on Monday morning. But they're very resilient. But just, I suppose I'm going off the point there, but going back to the wintered system, it allows basically the way they farm with the system. And not even myself, I grew up here, I didn't even understand the system myself. So it's quite interesting. We always say, oh, how come the cows are in, or why does Dad bring the cattle in the middle of the summer, and where are they left out at the back of the island? For the winter months, we're talking from, say, October. They go out there from October, and you can see all the farmers working their way in from the back of the island. And basically what's happened is, over the summer months, these fields are left to, it's like a standing hay crop, and they're left, and what it allows for is the growth of a lot of species, and very rare species, and species that cannot be found in other places. You will not find these species in a regular farmland, we'll say up in the middle of Meath or down in Kerry. So it goes back to the farming system. But of course, the farming system doesn't come without its challenges, and they've had challenges over the years. And I guess some of these challenges, this is how AranLIFE and Caomhnú Árann came about, was to try and come to terms with some of these challenges that the farmers have faced. So just moving on, you'll just see there the kind of the structure of the farms. This is the typical farm on Inis Oirr, and as you can see, it is very, you're talking about, well, this would be one of the larger firms, but in general, the size of firms on the islands is, you have extremely small firms. So you're going back to, if you're talking about how is that a challenge, they're not very economically viable. We say you can't survive off farming on its own. If you just have, obviously you're going to have, if you have small firms, you see an average there, and in a share of 6 hectares, Inis Oirr would be about 11 hectares, and Inis Oirr would be 20 hectares. These are tiny firms. You're not going to make money out of your gross payments. You're not going to survive on pure gross payments, or selling 2 or 3 cattle a year. Again, in general, the size of the herd would be quite small. You'd have less than 10 or so cattle. And again, the extremely fragmented nature of the farm, which is probably one of the main differences between, I'd say, farms on the islands and farms over in Clare. Would say, I reckon, I'm not 100% sure, but I'd say most of the farms, even in the Burren, would be one holding is quite, most of the land parcels will be beside each other, whereas here you don't. So you have different difficulties with moving cattle, the time it takes, getting water out to these fields, and then if you see this field off on its own or whatever, tends to maybe get abandoned or left aside, and then you get pockets of these different fields that might be abandoned. So it's just the nature of the structure of the farm. Then one of the other main challenges that they face, we all at the minute actually on the islands have water restrictions in place, and it's been an extremely dry spring and early summer. We have water restrictions in place so we're talking about for the people. We have water restrictions in place from 5 p.m. in the evening until 10 a.m. in the morning. So you have no tap water. So it is a bit of a challenge, and you have to try and work your way around it. But if you look at this picture here, It nearly looks like desert land. We've no, again, the actual landscape, we have no underwater streams, we have no rivers, we have no major lakes, anything that you could draw water from. And we have very free draining soil as well. So even there was one night there, I think we had rain. There was a storm about 2 weeks ago, and you'd think, oh, there was a lot of rain, but nothing. There was nothing collected. There was nothing left. So you have to come up with ways of dealing with this. So the poor donkey there, as well as the horses and cattle and all, they're going to be lacking water. Obviously, if the humans are lacking water, we're going to be, so they're going to be as thirsty as well. So you have to deal with this and overcome this challenge. Another challenge that has, or difficulty that has faced it's not individual farms as such. It'd be where, I guess, I spoke before about the fragmented nature of the farm, and you might have fields that end up getting abandoned or whatever, and what you end up is them getting covered in scrub, or like briars and bracken can cover the fields, which it stifles the growth of species and of the grasslands underneath. And a lot of this would happen as well in areas, I suppose, as I was saying earlier, about the economics of the farm, and it's not economical. You can't just survive on farm on its own. And people do, obviously, as I spoke earlier about the tourism industry, it's massive on the islands. People get very busy in the summer, and I guess farmers have to make a choice sometimes whether, is it worth my while grazing, moving the cattle down to this field down here for 2 weeks in the middle of July when I'm busy and I'm making money, the way somewhere else. So, I suppose it's a juggling game, and I suppose certain areas on the island got more scrubbed up than other areas. So it's another issue that the AranLIFE project and Caomhnú Árann are trying to tackle and help the farmers deal with these issues. And there's the poor cow there, saying you have basically, again, the cow saying that he's hungry. Obviously, as these fields get scrubbed up, you end up with less grass for the cows, and you have less grasslands basically. And again, you're losing, you end up having a loss of habitat. And then, as we'll move forward to, I'm talking about these extremely species rich habitats and high priority habitats, and we need to conserve them. We don't want to be losing them. So again, this is just another, I guess, challenge, or farmers, as I'm saying, if they had less time on their hands. This is more now, you've gone back to kind of the 90s and stuff, and you would have seen more of a rise in people using herbicides and pesticides and whatnot on the land, and it was kind of a quick fix more than anything else. And I guess at the time people didn't even realize how bad it was, and how destructive it can be to the grasslands. But yeah, definitely I can see in recent years there has been definitely a drop in the use of it, and that's what we have been trying to promote as well as part of our project. So then, I guess, where did the projects develop from, I guess, I suppose is what people ask. And it is, I suppose, back to, you're talking about the late 90s, early 90s kind of, and it would have been in and around the time that AranLIFE probably the original AranLIFE project came to life. A lot of farmers back on the islands around this time as well were getting very worried about the loss of habitats and the loss of traditional farming practices. And a group got together, and Patrick Mcgovern, that I spoke about earlier, our project manager, would have worked a lot, was heavily involved in applying for EU funding from the LIFE programme. And that is where the AranLIFE project was born. The funding was secured back in 2013, and it ended up being, it was originally a 4-year project that went on to be a 5-year project, and it's EU LIFE programme. that we secured this funding for 2.5 million. And again, it was 75% funded by the LIFE programme, as we were working only with high priority habitats. And then we got 25% funding from various Irish organisations that were willing to give money towards the project. So the main people that were involved at the time was the Department of Culture, Heritage and Gaeltacht, and Teagasc were our main beneficiary and associate beneficiary, and then we had other partners who gave funding as well, which were the Department of Agriculture, Fáilte Ireland, Galway County Council and the Heritage Council. And to this day they're still quite involved in, they show a massive interest in the project, and we can always go to them if we're ever looking for any expertise or anything, or they're always very good for helping us out. So then after, I suppose, at the time, even when I know towards the end of the AranLIFE project, and at the time we didn't know if we were going to get funding for another project or was that the end, and then you go, what happens to all the works that have been done? It doesn't just stop. You can't just stop overnight. It's a continuous thing that has to continue, and it has to be a long-term work. So it can't be just the projects. The projects are great for in the sense of this is a demonstration project to show the importance, and it's like a stepping stone towards something bigger, you would hope. So moving on to then just the project I'm working on at the minute is it's an EIP, a European Innovation Programme, under the Department of Agriculture, Food and the Marine, and we have funding of 1.5 million. We started up last year and we will be finishing up next year. It goes very, very quickly. People wonder what to do on these projects, and they often ask, and the time it flies by. We never have a dull moment. There's always something else to do. We always have deadlines to meet, and there's always work there to be done. There's always more work to be done. So moving on, just to give you an idea of what we actually do, what we did on the AranLIFE project and the Caomhnú Árann project. We work very closely with farmers, very similar to the Burren programme in Clare. We initially worked with 68 farmers in the AranLIFE project, and there was just to give you an idea, there's 200 farmers roughly on the 3 Aran Islands. So we would have worked with about 1/3 the AranLIFE project. That's what the funding allowed. And again, with the Caomhnú Árann project, what we've done is we've split the funding, that more of the funding goes towards the farmers. So it's kind of in around 75% of our overall fund goes to the farmers. So we've increased the number of the farmers, but we've reduced the administration costs. So you reduce the time that the project team can spend on the project, but you're still doing the same amount of work. They are because you're working so closely with the farmers. You need people on the ground to work with the farmers. So the administration costs can be very high on these projects, but it's important that these projects continue. So some of the works, what we initially do would be do a kind of a farm plan, and each farmer has an individual, and this is where you go with your high administration costs. It's not one size fits all, that kind of way. Every farm is different. Every farmer's needs are different, the way, and you're trying to shape a program that will suit all the farmers, but at the same time, you have to start kind of from the bottom up, I think, and you have to have a close relationship with all the farmers first. So we do an individual farm plan with each one, and we find out what works they want to do on their farm and what they prioritise, basically what's the most important thing they need done, where they want their scrub cut, or where they want something like here you have access issues. We have a lot of little borings, this boring network on the islands. A lot of these have gotten scrubbed up over the years, and then when the boring into a certain land parcel gets scrubbed up, the land parcel at the end of the boring might get abandoned and get scrubbed up. So it's all, it has a knock-on effect. So we worked a lot. We've done a lot of work on the AranLIFE project. We still have some boring. We've to map the boring work on the Caomhnú Árann project. But in the past, on the AranLIFE project, we cleared. Well, the farmers did, but we funded the clearance of in and around 30 kilometres of closed up borings. And then moving on to scrub work. This is when land, obviously, when land gets encroached by scrub and all, you end up losing all the biodiversity and all the flora and fauna that comes with the habitats. So we did a lot of work, again, the farmers, and we funded the clearance of scrub on, you'll just see before and after pictures here. Under the AranLIFE project, it was in around 90 hectares of scrub that was cleared and paid out on. And for the Caomhnú Árann project, we have similar amount of scrub clearance mapped. So we have around 90 hectares again. And even up to date now, they had the first, we gave farm plans out in October, and scrub clearance as well can only happen in the not, like, say, when it's not the bird nesting season, if you know what I mean. So the bird nesting season comes into play from 1st of March until the end of August. So it gives, so for this year, the farmers would have been clearing scrub from October to February. Now they stopped clearing scrub in February, and they've already cleared 35 hectares. They've been busy. They've cleared 35 hectares of scrub, and I'm another, I'd say, about 10 hectares of claims in at the minute. So it's a lot. You're talking about nearly half of what we have mapped they have done. So they do, the farmers really get involved, and they get dug in, like, and they do the work, and they do it really well, and they're very proud of the work they do. And it's one thing, it's one of the main things, I think, that you get feedback about. The farmers, like, initially they go, oh, that could be a lot of work, it might be too much work, I don't know if I'll be able to do that. And once they start, and once they see the results, but yeah, you have to go back and you have to recut it and recut it, and then a lot of the bracken comes up after it's cut. But farmers, they are doing it, and they're very happy to do it, and we're very happy to help in getting them to continue with these works. Then the other thing, I spoke about water shortages earlier, and this has gone back to, this is actually a rain catcher that was built during the AranLIFE project, but they've really stuck with the traditional rain catchers. And again, I was going back to islanders being resourceful. They use the stones on the island to build and to it's basically a rain harvesting method. And then it's not putting as much pressure on the water supply for the humans either. I know my own dad, he was saying this year is the first year he hasn't had to, although we've had a serious drought the last few months and we've had no rainfall, he hasn't had to bring water as such. Other years you literally have to fill tanks and bring water to the cattle for them to survive. So these are working. They're very important structures, and they are very important in the grazing regime of the field. Once you have your scrub cut and all, it's really important to have a water source in place. So under the AranLIFE project, we funded in and around, I think, 140 new rain catchers and over 100 repair works. And again, we've similar kind of rain catchers down for to be built and repaired. And to date, we funded about 40 new rain catchers and about 5 repairs. Then just another thing, I'm just going through some of the main kind of things we do on the project. I could be here all night if I was to tell you everything we do, but I'm trying to give you an overview of the main things and what the things that are helping making life a bit easier for the farmers and back in with the AranLIFE project, we worked closely with the local vet, Maura Keneally, and she did a lot of blood sampling and a lot of soil samples. As I was saying, they're very free draining soils on the island, which means as well as the water that drains away, a lot of minerals and stuff drain away as well. And in general, these aren't, and again, this is why the habitats are so species rich. The farmers in general don't, fertilizer wouldn't be, they don't use fertilizer, like you're talking about seaweed and stuff for in some areas, but they're not getting that extra feed of minerals in fertilizer. So what was found that there is a high deficiency, there can be a high deficiency of phosphorus in and a few certain other minerals like selenium and cobalt and copper. But we worked with the local vet in putting together a specific mineral lick, and it's great. Now, like you would have seen at the time, originally you would say, oh, there's an AranLIFE farmer. Now it's, you know, everyone is using them, every farmer is using them, and they are hopefully making a difference. But the phosphorus, there's still an issue with it. That's something we are working on the Caomhnú Árann on. It's just other ways of getting phosphorus into the livestock if they're deficient in the phosphorus. So it's just something we're still going to work on in the life of the Caomhnú Árann project. So then all of this leads on to, and we would have done a fair bit of this with the AranLIFE. We kind of started it with the AranLIFE project. It was, and it's similar. There's a similar, I'd say, under the Burren program. What we do is we have it's kind of optimal grazing plans in place with each farmer, and each land person basically on the farm gets a score, and you're talking about a score from 1 to 5, and it's one of the main things we are working on at the minute, while Amanda's working from home and Patrick is working from home. They're doing a lot of work on the scoring system at the minute, and we're looking at other ways of scoring the fields when we can't physically go out and score the fields. So what we're doing, we're working on the minute, is putting together a booklet that we can give to the farmers, and we're also doing a series of videos that the farmers will be able to look at. So you'll say, oh, there's a definite score 1, or there's a definite score 5, and then the higher the score, the higher the payment, and each non-person will get a payment per according to the score. I thought it was quite interesting. I was out the other day, I was taking some of the videos for this series of videos we want to do, and I was out with my sister and my niece and nephew, and I was trying to explain the scoring system and, you know, what a score 1 was and what a score 5 was, and it was amazing how quickly the kids picked it up. They straight away, within 20 minutes, half an hour, I was like, oh, there's the field 5, oh, there's the field 3, you know, which is great. And it's like, if we can get the kids to understand it, and if we can get them to learn about it, you know, they're going to grow up with this, like, which was something that didn't exist when I was growing up, you know, the way. So it is, you know, it's great to, I think, share this information and share with schools. Not we do a lot with schools as well, but something like this, you know, it does work, and to pass it on to the kids and to the next generation is extremely important. So then, I guess, from moving away from the basic kind of concrete works that we do with the farmers and the works that the hard work that the farmers do on the land, we've been looking at, again, I spoke about trying to reduce the administration costs on these kind of high nature value projects, farming projects. Instead of me going out, or Patrick or Amanda going out, and the various things that I've been saying there about scoring fields or inspecting works after they've been done, you know, if you send out a drone instead to take a video or a clip of how many ever hectares of land, it's going to be way more cost efficient and less time consuming than somebody, an individual, a person going out to actually visit each of these fields. So we've done a fair bit of work last year, and we brought a group in from, I think it's Giro Aerospace and NUI, and we did some drone training with them, and they've mapped a fair bit of they've done a good few hectares over in Ishmore. I think it was 700 hectares that we now have photograph imagery and all, and that we're going to tie in with our grazing score as well. And they produced a report for us. We've been a bit delayed this year as a result of travel restrictions and whatnot. Obviously, people can't come out. Patrick and Amanda can't come out, but we're hoping to develop more on this towards the end of the summer. And then, I guess, as well as trying to reduce the administration costs on the project, we're trialing and looking into, as I said earlier, farming alone isn't economical on its own, so you're trying to look at other avenues and other sources of income. So another nice thing we're doing on the project is seed collecting, and there's a massive market out there for wildflower seeds in Ireland, in Europe, internationally across the globe, and there's definitely a market out there. And it was on a trip we visited another EU LIFE program over in Estonia a few years back, and they were selling, it was seed bombs. So we're looking into getting the seed bombs, literally making seed bombs and seeing how much they cost, how much it sells them for in the market and what, and it could be an extra income source for some farmers on the island. And that's what we're currently, anyway, we collected the seeds last summer in various months, and Amanda and Patrick were quite busy at separating out seeds, and we have planted seeds in different areas, in different grasslands all over Ireland. We've had a few plots on the island itself, particularly say somewhere in places where there might have been a potato field in the previous year, and just to see how do they grow when they in these kind of areas. We have seeds planted. Let me see now. This is the EIP Bride project. We worked with them, and Amanda went to visit them, and they have planted some of the Aran Islands wildflower seeds. As well as that, the Dundrum College for Further Education, the horticulture department there, they've planted some seeds on golf course somewhere close, and this is Lutherstown. And then, as well as that, we've worked with the school in Inishmaan, the secondary school in Inishmaan, where they have some seed sites as well. So we're hoping to get to see some results from some of these seed plots this year, and to work further on making the seed bombs hopefully in winter time, over the coming winter. So then I suppose you're saying, you look at the islands and you say there's a lot of work involved there, and you look at the farming system and you say so much work and so a lot of money is gone into it, and why? And everyone says why. It's because these habitats are so important, and they've been recognised by Natura 2000, which I'll explain further later. But they're highly rich and important habitats. And as I was shown there, just kind of a snippet of, if you go back 20 years, if we continued the road we were going down, this isn't what you'd be seeing now. The way scrub can quite quickly encroach. You can start losing habitat very quickly. So the main reason we're doing all this is working with farmers and to conserve these habitats and to continue with the traditional farming practices that have been in place for centuries. So this is where we go into, you get more of an idea of what the islands are like at the minute, and why we're doing all this work. So again, as I say, it's the biodiversity, and it's protecting the biodiversity and all the biodiversity that comes along with these habitats. You'll see you're talking about across the islands, 40 squared kilometres is kind of the area of the islands. We've no boglands, we've no woodlands, we've no forestry, so a lot of the plant species that would be found in those areas, you wouldn't generally find them on the islands. But just to give you an idea of some of just the level of biodiversity on the islands, you're talking about in the whole of Ireland, in and around 900 plant species. On the Aran Islands alone, and I'm going back to my 40 square kilometres, and no boglands and no woodlands, no forests, there's over 450 plant species. So over half of the plant species in the whole of Ireland have been recorded at some stage on the Aran Islands. And again, it's just to bring back the importance of these habitats and the importance of these grasslands and the importance of that farming continues. You'll see like some plants, just they're not even found in other places. You have with either spring gentian, you get them in Clare as well, but they're quite rare in general. And the orchids, we just get orchids everywhere, and we're used to them. But even growing up, I always remember the orchids were the ones you didn't pick. They were the special plants, and to this day I still think they're extremely special plants. And you'll see pockets of them, you'll see clusters of them, you could see 50 in 1 square meter, out in some fields on the islands. But it's important that we protect them, and it's important that we conserve them. You'll see there, I just want to draw attention to on the bottom left hand corner, it's purple milkfetch, which is found in Inishmaan and Inishmore, and it's actually not to be found anywhere else in Ireland, so it's quite a rare plant. I've yet to find it on Inis Oirr. Hopefully I'll try to bring it in from Inishmaan someday and try and grow it, but it hasn't yet been recorded on Inis Oirr. But then just going to, this is where I had planned to bring you on kind of a video and overview of Inis Oirr at the moment, but instead I'm just going to show you some pictures. This was a field I visited about 3 weeks ago, and you just see there in the space of the size of your hand nearly, you'll find so many different species, and you have cowslips, and you have your orchids there, you have birds for trefoil, and then we have bloody cranesbill. These are everywhere at the minute. They're just, as I'm saying, you don't just find one on its own, you find massive, nearly bouquets, huge clusters of each of these species that are quite rare in other places. And this is one of my favourite. I was kind of sitting in the field, and you see, first of all, oh, look, birds with trefoil. Then you're like, oh wow, look at all the orchids. And then as you look closer and closer, and you see your spring gentians, and you see your milkwort, and you see, you see so many species. You kind of you get lost in it, and you get lost in you get amazed by it and mesmerized by it. Nearly you could sit there all day looking at these. And then this is you're moving on to last weekend, so you start to get a different, you just see a change in your spring gentians. They're dying, and some of your early purple orchids and all are dying, but then you have another set of just beautiful colours and beautiful flowers coming up. You have your kidney vetch there again, your bloody cranesbill. You can see they're starting to kind of wilt a bit, but you just start to see so many other species developing and coming up. There's some wild thyme, we have a burnout rose. This is all, and all of these here is going back to the picture I showed at the start, where there was the kind of tent-like feature, and these were all in that one field. So it's the amount of species you record in one field is amazing. And then I'm delighted to be able to say that our bee orchids have started to bloom this week, and it's my favourite plant. I remember doing a presentation with the primary school about 3 years ago, And I had this up on the presentation, and one of the kids asked me, they're like, why is it called a bee orchid? And I was like, does it attract bees? And I was going, no, that's part of the actual plant. And they were just amazed. It's just, you wouldn't believe it's an actual plant. But I think it's one of my favourite plants. But it's so beautiful. But they are in flower at the minute. And they're in flower just near my office. So I get to look at them every day as I'm walking to work. So yeah, so that's then, along with all the plants, obviously, the plants are a source of food for your birds, your bees, your butterflies. And we just have a massive range. It's similar to, as I was saying, with the plants, like we have such a high count of plants on the islands. It's the same goes for birds. We have 53 species have been of breeding species have been recorded on the islands, and again, some of them are quite rare. Some of them are birds that are of medium or high conservation concern. You'll see the lapwing up there in the left-hand corner. There's many lapwing sites on Inishmaan and Inishmore, protected sites. You have the curlew down in the corner, you have the guillemot. You've just you go for a walk on the islands and you just hear the birds and you see the birds, and it's just it's very, I'd say it's very similar in the Burren, but you take it in, and at the moment when things are so quiet you notice it even more, and it's lovely to be able to experience it. Along with obviously the birds, you get your butterflies as well, and you have in Ireland, again, it's the figures are, when you look at the figures, you go, wow, is it possible? There's, say, 31 species of butterflies in Ireland. At least 21 have been recorded on the Aran Islands. And some of these, again, are endangered species, near threatened species. You've your small blue up there would be a near threatened species, and then you have your nurse fertility would be an endangered species. But again, all of these are on the islands and can be seen, and the birds and all can be heard on the islands because of the grasslands that have been created by the farmers and by the farming system. And again, I guess I'm harping on about it, but it's the importance of continuing with the traditional farming system that has been on the island for years, and to conserve and protect these beautiful plants and these beautiful birds and these beautiful butterflies. And then just another nice little kind of, we also have a lot of moths and day flying moths on the islands, and this is just a little kind of, I suppose, you wouldn't call it an event, but it's an activity we do with the schools. So originally we did it as part of a bio blitz that was held in Inishmore back in 2016, I think it was. And we set out moth traps. And don't worry when people hear moth traps and think we're trapping moths and killing them, and no, we're not. You set out the moth trap and they're drawn to the light, and then you kind of open it up the following early in the morning and see, you can record what you get. Now we set this up last weekend, and we took videos and we shared it with the teachers in the school, and they had it up on there as part of their nature activities this week, which is brilliant. And it's great. It's so nice to see the interest that kids have in these kind of things. So just to give you an idea of some of the moths that came out of the moth trap, I've yet to go and find out the names of some of these. They're just beautiful. They're amazing. I think people say, oh, butterflies are beautiful, and they are. Butterflies are colourful, but moths are as well. There's some people hate moths, but some of them are just amazing. I think there's my favourite, is quite big, the elephant hawk moth, I think that one is, and I always mix them up with the other hawk moths, but they're amazing. And yeah, once we have them all, taken pictures of them and recorded, we let them out back in kind of under the bushes and back into the darkness in time for them to go back into their own habitat. But again, it's just another part of the massive biodiversity that can be found in these grasslands on the islands. And just it kind of ties in with actually the talk we just had before, the beautiful storytelling about the bees, Bombus. I love Bombus O'Reilly. And as I was thinking, I was like, oh, that's Bombus muscorium. We actually have a lot of bee species on the island, but we have our own unique Aran bee, this Bombus muscorium. There's a variant, Alanellus, and it's quite distinctive. It's got kind of black fluffy hair on its chest, and they're just beautiful. I think they're a gorgeous little thing. But again, they're found in the Aran Islands and not anywhere else. So we are very proud of our special Aran bee. So that's kind of from a biodiversity point of view. It's just to give you an insight of what's happening on the island at the minute in terms of biodiversity, and all of this biodiversity has resulted from the farming system on the island. So I guess I'd say we're probably getting pushed for time, but I'll just run quickly through again just the importance of some of I guess like we do a lot of monitoring work as well on the projects, and the beauty of the project is we have collected so much data over the past few years, and a lot of this can go towards you'd say government policy and whatnot in trying to get trying to just raise awareness on the importance of having kind of specific agri-environment schemes for certain areas. Kind of you can't just have the same agri-environment scheme for the whole of the country. I'd say we're kind of pushed for time. That's just a book that's been published recently. It's The Role of Results-Based Payments, and it's with Teagasc and National Parks and Wildlife, and AranLIFE actually features as a chapter in it. So if you want to learn more about the project, more the technical side, and want to go more in depth into it, you can find it on the Teagasc website. And then I'll just move on quickly. I'm going to skip a few of these slides because we're running out of time. I suppose it's just going back to we're saying with the pandemic and all at the minute, and the country being in lockdown. What I found is it's giving people time to kind of reconnect and time to get in touch with nature again, and ourselves even on the islands. You just appreciate it so much more, and it's giving farmers more time to spend and work on the land. And I guess just one more important thing I want to share with you. During the week, on Tuesday, we found out very good news story. Was that we are now a finalist for a Natura 2000 award, and they are currently being judged by there were 79 applications and 27 finalists have been chosen, and we've been one of the lucky ones. And there is one award that's a public vote award, and we would really appreciate if you would take the time to log in and click. It just takes 1 second. You just have to put in an email address, and then you'll get an email confirmation. And we would really appreciate and all the farmers and the shareholders and the stakeholders that have been involved in the projects. It's given recognition to the work they've done over the last few years. So I'll just give up the screen here. Obviously you'll be able to get in touch with Burrenbeo Trust, or any of us. We have a website, Facebook page, Twitter page, Instagram page, and we've a rake of videos up on YouTube as well. And if you have any questions or anything, you can email me at caomhnúárann@gmail.com. Yeah.
That's absolutely great, Gráinne. Thank you so much. Really fascinating, and just lovely to see the good work being done there. And we should put the link maybe to that vote.
Oh yes.
Yes, congratulations.
I'll do that now.
Yeah, so if you put that in the chat, maybe people could follow that link. There's a couple of questions in the Q&A, but I just have one that I'm going to ask. I know personally you've been involved in some community development groups on the island, such as Cóir Cuimhin Teo, agus Caomhnú Árann. Is there a crossover between that and the Caomhnú Árann project? Or I know you're saying that you're going to schools often. Is there a way to inspire the younger generations and the people of the island, and to just kind of, you know, if funding ever ran out, just to kind of try and keep the momentum going with the projects?
Yeah, I guess there is. I suppose there should be more of a connection between and a relation. You do have, because it's such small communities, like you are involved in the co-op and you're involved in Gráinne Ní Chonghaile actually is the Islands Federation for all of the islands. So something like this project, and I know I know they applied for EIP funding as well, and it wasn't successful. But I guess with something like this project, because our AranLIFE project is a demonstration project, and it's highlighting the importance of having kind of specific schemes on the islands. All the islands are so different, and I think it's very important that something similar should, you know, we should see something similar developing on the other islands as well. And I guess I suppose it always comes down to funding, you know, the way. So that's where you have to, it's important to highlight to government and to different government authorities the importance of continuing with and using funding for these kind of programs.
Thank you, Gráinne. I've had sorry to cut across, Gráinne. There's been lots of compliments on your presentation. People have really enjoyed getting this virtual tour of Inis Oirr at a time when we are not able to travel ourselves and visit the Aran Islands. So thank you again. I'll probably just choose one question, if that is okay, from Andy Bleasdale. Proud of you, he says. Just wondering, did the time spent on the project in a professional capacity affect how you personally connect with nature? So does scientific knowledge change how you emotionally engage with your own place?
Yes, it does. I think when you grow up in a place you're so surrounded by nature, I don't think you appreciate it as much till someone else points it out to you, if you know what I mean, you know, that kind of way. And it's only since I've been working on the projects and you realize, and it's more like that when it's people that aren't from the island, and it's people like that we've worked with National Parks and Wildlife, we've worked with Teagasc, you know, we've worked with different government agencies, and it's when they, you know, when they show and they even say, you know, when they're saying this is so important, like, and you kind of go, yeah, it is, you know, the way I didn't even realize the farming practices, even Dad grown up, like, I wouldn't have called him a farmer, you know, the way, whereas now all the farmers, you know, it was originally AranLIFE participants and it was Caomhnú Árann participants, they all call themselves farmers now, whereas they didn't before. They didn't even look at themselves as being farmers, if you know what I mean. And now it's like there's the pride is coming out, and the importance of the work they do is being, I suppose, it's been highlighted and it's been recognised, which is so important.